This video explains who is orchestrating the attacks on Asian Americans and why the evil will not end. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini, where I provide unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender Germany continued World War II clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. On March 16, 2021, 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long shot dead 8 people, which included 6 women of Asian American descent. Then on Monday, March 29, 2021, a very disturbing video showed a 65-year-old Asian American woman going to church being violently assaulted by Brandon Elliott, 38 years old, of New York City. Elliott was convicted of stabbing his mother to death in the Bronx in 2002 when he was 19 years old, online court records show. He was released from prison in 2019 and is on lifetime parole. More than 3,795 incidents were reported to the organization Stop AAPI Hate from March 19, 2020 to February 28, 2021, which are only a fraction of the number of hate incidents that actually occur, the advocacy group said. This non-profit organization tracks incidents of hate, violence, harassment, and discrimination against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. That's what AAPI stands for, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the United States. Of these incidents, 68.1% involved verbal harassment, 20.5% involved shunning, 11.1% were physical assaults, 8.5% were civil rights violations, and 6.8% online harassment. While these attacks appear to be random acts of violence against the weak and vulnerable Asian Americans, such as women and the elderly, because of the perception that the COVID-19 pandemic was caused by China, in fact, the acts are not random. If the assaults were caused by frustration because of the coronavirus, they should have been directed against Americans of Chinese descent because China is responsible for the spread of the virus and the pandemic. But these acts of violence and killings are not directed at Chinese but mainly at Koreans and Japanese, two nations that have nothing to do with the origins or spread of COVID-19. So, who could be instigating these attacks? For the answer to that question, one must know the true identity of the Koreans, Japanese, and the Thais. All three nations are Jewish. Many centuries ago, after the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar had conquered the Jews and removed them from their land, about 100,000 of the Jews migrated to Japan and mingled with the local people. Because of similar migrations and mingling with the local populations, the Koreans and the Thais are also Jews. The Germans know their identity, and through them, the Chinese now know their identity. German hatred of the Jews is driven by Satan the devil. The reason is that Satan has a very short time left as ruler of the earth, and God will replace him by human beings made eternal. God conferred a blessing on Judah, the ancestor of the Jews, through his father Jacob, which is recorded in the Bible in Genesis 49, verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh, meaning Jesus Christ, come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Scepter or ruler's staff is an emblem of rulership. In 1 Kings chapter 9 verse 5, God told Solomon, "Then I will establish the throne of your kingdom upon Israel forever, as I promised to David your father, saying, There shall not fail a man upon the throne of Israel." But after Solomon had sinned in worshipping other gods, God spoke concerning Solomon through Ahijah the prophet in 1 Kings chapter 11 verses 32 to 33. But he, that is Solomon's son, shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of the tribes of Israel. Because they have forsaken me, and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways, to do that which is right in my eyes, and to keep my statutes and judgments, as David his father. Thus, God's promise to Judah was that at least one of his descendants will always rule over at least one tribe among the 12 tribes of Israel. But God always delivers more than his promises. That is why today we find Jews living in many nations of the world, and many more Jews and descendants of King David being rulers over many other nations, including almost all the nations of Europe. Ultimately, God's plan is to remove Satan the devil and his demon cohorts from being rulers of the earth and replace them with human beings made immortal. Most of those rulers in the highest positions will be Jews made eternal. That is why Satan and the demons hate Jews the most. Mostly the Jews will replace Satan and the demons as rulers over the earth. Of course, the Germans don't believe in these promises and prophecies stated in the Bible. They believe that Satan is a much greater God than the God of the Bible, Jesus Christ. Satan's goal is to have the Germans rule the earth, who will then do his bidding. But Jewish rulers and Israelites stand in that way. That's why Satan and his human agents, the Germans, hate the Jews so much, and descendants of other Israelites who live in America, British Commonwealth nations, and the democracies of northwestern Europe. That is why the Satan and the human agents, Germans, hate the Jews as well as the descendants of these Israelites. The Germans discovered that the Japanese, Koreans, and the Thais are Jews only a few decades ago, well after World War II. That's why they've started hating them. The Chinese are their alliance partners. That is why they too have now started hating the Japanese and Koreans even more than they hated them after World War II. The assaults against the Koreans and Japanese in the USA are not random acts. They are directed by German masqueraders in America. The Japanese, Koreans, and Thais have never done the Germans any harm, but they are not German enemies simply because they are Jews. The murders and other assaults are being committed under the guise of retribution for causing the COVID-19 pandemic, but the victims are not Chinese. Humans are not capable of such cunning craftiness and don't have the ability to parse information this way. Satan is definitely closely guiding the Germans to orchestrate such assaults on Asian Americans such as the Japanese and the Koreans and the Thais. The Germans are Satan worshippers. He is their God and they obey him without question, as most obey their God. Satan's hatred for the Jews and Israelite nations will never end. That's why the continual evil that the Germans dream up, or as directed by Satan, will not end until Satan and the demons are removed by God as rulers of the earth. Winston Churchill, the wartime Prime Minister of Britain, said of the Germans, "A Hun alive is a war in prospect." That is a massive understatement. A more accurate statement that describes the Germans succinctly is, "A Hun alive is a font of continuous, unimaginable evil." Because their reach is now global, the world will simply not have peace as long as there are some Germans left alive on earth. That is why the correct judgment on German masqueraders is that they should be exterminated, man, woman, and child. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos and read my articles on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please also subscribe to my YouTube channel Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini to view and get information on the latest videos.